So today we're diving into something pretty wild in cybersecurity. I mean, just think about it. We are completely surrounded by smart devices, from the watch on your wrist to the traffic lights on the street, all chattering away to each other. But here's the thing. In a world with no digital police force, how in the world do they learn to protect themselves?
Just take a look at this number, 152,000.
Yeah, that is the number of new Internet of Things devices that are firing up and connecting to the internet every single minute. We're talking everything from the smart thermostat in your house to the critical sensors that are running our city's power grid. This thing is growing at a truly explosive rate.
And that brings up this huge question. In this massive, decentralized, leaderless world of smart gadgets, how do they figure out which of their neighbors are friends and which are actually enemies in disguise?
This is at the heart of what researchers call the IoT security paradox. It's this fundamental clash between our old ideas about security and the messy reality of these new, sprawling networks.
You see, traditional security was a lot like building a medieval fortress, right? You build one big, strong wall with a deep moat and a single gate. As long as you guard that gate, you're pretty much safe. But the IoT isn't a fortress. Oh no, it's more like a sprawling, chaotic city with millions of open doors and windows, and absolutely no walls. That old fortress model, it just completely falls apart.
And this vulnerability, it opens the door for all kinds of clever attacks. You've got black hole attacks, where a bad device just gobbles up data, making it vanish. You've got selfish nodes that just refuse to pass messages along because they want to save their own battery. And then you have stuff like rank attacks, where a node will lie about how important it is just to screw up the whole network. It's pure chaos.
Okay, so if building walls is useless, what's the answer? Well, a team of researchers is pushing a really radical new idea. Instead of trying to force security on these devices from the outside, what if you could teach the devices to create security themselves from the inside out?
The first key ingredient is a principle called zero trust. And it's as simple and as paranoid as it sounds. Trust no one, ever. The best analogy is a super exclusive nightclub that has a bouncer not just at the front door, but at the bathroom door, at the door to the VIP lounge. Every single interaction gets verified. No one gets a free pass just because they're already inside.
The second ingredient is game theory. Now this sounds complicated, but it's really just the science of strategy. It's all about studying how rational players, and in our case, the players are these smart devices, make choices to get the absolute best outcome for themselves. It all comes down to weighing the risks versus the rewards.
So what happens when you smash these two ideas together, zero trust and game theory? Well, you get a framework that the researchers call DeSIST, and the whole idea here is to rig the game so that being a good, cooperative device is the most profitable and logical choice you can make.
And I love how the researchers put it here. They say security is treated as an emergent property. What that means is security isn't some program you just install. It's a behavior that emerges, it bubbles up naturally, just from every single device in the network acting in its own rational self-interest.
So if we could crack open one of these DeSIST-enabled devices, we'd see this constant three-step loop running inside. First, it assesses its neighbors, kind of like a little spy gathering intel. Then, it calculates the best move, asking itself, okay, what's in it for me? And finally, it executes whatever action gives it the biggest personal payoff. Assess, calculate, execute, over and over again.
All right, so that's the theory. But what does this security game actually look like in practice? Let's take the most basic thing two devices can do. One asks the other to pass along a message. Well, in DeSIST, even that simple action becomes a strategic game.
Welcome to the packet forwarding game. It's pretty simple. If a sender sends a message and the forwarding device cooperates and passes it on, boom, it's a win-win. They both get a reward. But if the forwarder defects, let's say it drops the packet just to save a little bit of energy, the sender gets hit with a big penalty, while the forwarder only gets a tiny, short-term gain.
So a good, rational device looks at this and thinks, okay, you know what? Cooperation is clearly the best long-term strategy. If I help others, they'll help me, my reputation as a reliable player will go up, and the whole network benefits.
But a selfish or malicious node, it sees things very differently. It looks at that tiny little gain from defecting and thinks, hey, I can save a little bit of battery power right now if I just drop this packet. It's a short-sighted, selfish move that DeSIST is specifically designed to identify and punish.
So the big question is, does it actually work? Well, the researchers ran a ton of simulations to find out.
putting DeSIST networks up against standard IoT networks in all kinds of nasty attack scenarios. And the results? They're pretty staggering, to be honest.
Check this out. When they simulated a black hole attack where bad guys just swallow data, a regular network's delivery rate just tanked, down to about 35%. But the DeSIST network, it adapts on the fly. The good nodes realize the black hole is uncooperative, they stop trusting it, and they just start routing their data around the problem, maintaining an incredible 90% delivery rate.
And the effect on energy usage is just as dramatic. Because the DeSIST nodes aren't wasting power trying to talk to these selfish, uncooperative devices, the entire network's lifespan more than doubles. It goes from 82 hours all the way up to 176. For a tiny device running on a battery, that is a game changer.
So let's zoom out. What does all this mean for the future of our world, which is just getting more and more connected every day?
Here's the key takeaway. DeSIST essentially teaches networks how to police themselves. It doesn't need a central command center because the system is built in such a way that cooperation becomes the most rational, the most profitable, and frankly, the most selfishly beneficial strategy for every single device.
Now, the system isn't perfect, and the researchers are very upfront about that. It can still be vulnerable to things like Sybil attacks, where one baddie creates thousands of fake identities to overwhelm the system, or collusion, where groups of bad devices team up. These are tough nuts to crack, and they're the focus of future research.
But it leaves us with a really provocative thought. What if the next big leap forward in security isn't about building bigger, stronger digital fortresses? What if, instead, it's about designing smarter digital communities, where trust is never just given away, but has to be earned, one strategic move at a time?